When the whole thing hit, I was shattered to some degree because we have ministries down there. Beyond Borders is our primary ministry, and its subsidiary organization called Haiti Helpers. Beyond Borders has been working with the rest of X. I don't know whether you're aware of that word. It's a Creole word that refers to children who are given away by their parents back in the hills where there's very little communication. There are poor families, and they have maybe 5 or 6 children. And certain entrepreneurs come into these hills and say to the mothers back in these hills, your children are hungry, your family is on the verge of starvation and death. Why don't you give us your oldest child? We will take that child to Port-au-Prince. We'll feed the child, we'll clothe the child will go to school and have a good life. You can't give him a good life here. And the mothers, with great sorrow, realize that they have very little, if anything, to offer these children, so they give them to these entrepreneurs who take them into Haiti and then deliver them to homes that pay for the service. And these children are not sent to school in most cases. They are not well fed in most cases. They are reduced to domestic servitude. They are virtual slaves. It's a scandal. In the cities of Haiti, there are about 250,000 of these children out of this country of 9 million. When the hurricane hit, the devastation was so thorough that mothers and fathers took care of their children. But knowing that resources would be scarce, what they did was simply turn these Restaveks out on the streets. And so if you go down to Haiti today, you'll find thousands of boys and girls wandering the streets of Haiti, wandering the streets of Port-au-Prince particularly, dazed, lost, tossed out by the people who once had utilized them as slaves, and now they're out on the streets. Our program down there has 6,000 boys and girls who are Restaveks in a literacy program. We go to these homes where these Restaveks live and we say, look, your children will be here working all day, but would you please release the child at 4 o'clock? That way we can take the child and put the child in a school building, and we can teach the child to read and write. We don't have any school buildings down there, but we use the school buildings that the other children use, because they go home at 3 o'clock and the buildings are vacant. They're free to be used, and we use them. And these parents are, these overlords, I guess you would call them, these slave owners, tend to say yes to that because they know we will feed them and they won't have to. We'll feed them before they go home. And so they come at 4:30 to class to learn how to read and write, because in a country where there's 80% illiteracy, to know how to read and write is to have a future, is to have a job when you finish learning how to read and write. So they went to class at 4:30. And the earthquake hit at 5 o'clock. And the roofs came tumbling in. I don't know how many of them died, but we don't know where 200 of them are. Maybe they're out on the streets, I don't know, but there's 200 that we can't figure out where they are or what happened to them. This is not God's doing. God is not the author of evil. That's what it says in the Bible. God does not punish the poor and the oppressed. Quite the opposite. He stands with the poor and the oppressed. And hear me, people at Eastern. We are the privileged ones, and we are called to respond as instruments of God, to do the work that God wants to do among the poor and the oppressed, not only in Haiti, but in Philadelphia, in Atlanta, in New Orleans, because you don't have to go to Haiti to meet the poor and the oppressed. God calls us to be participants with Him in the work that God wants to do in the world.